Welcome to the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your first choice for second round advice, with your hosts, Gabriel Miramontes and Jacob Bartley.
Burrow on 3rd and 7. Jefferson hauls it in. Would be Max Crosby. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. Jacob Bartley, Gabriel Miramontes, August 5th, 2023. We got some fantasy football action coming at you today. We also had some NFL preseason football. Jacob, did you watch the Chicago Bears?
The answer is no.
The Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets. Did you watch it?
I did not. I turned on the TV and, I have YouTube TV and NFL Network, and I turned it on and I saw the game, but I could have sworn it was like when they play the old games and stuff. They always play old games from last season or like classic games. I was like, oh, they're playing one of those classic games or something. I did not think that it was preseason football, but it's here.
Here. There are really relevant guys in that game. Zach Wilson made an appearance, the direct backup to Aaron Rodgers, former number 2 overall pick in the 2021 draft. Like, there were some major names out there, but I, like you, did also not catch the game. So, you know what?
What has been more disappointing this far? Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick, or Trey Lance, number 3 overall pick?
Oh, well, I mean, you got some games out of Zach Wilson. You may not have started him, but at least he
won some games. Yeah, so no, the Lance situation has definitely been more difficult, but that's just because our coaching staff and owners don't know how to handle quarterback situations, but no worries.
It happens. Well, anyways, welcome on into the podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, anywhere. Or also here on YouTube. You can find us on the socials. I recently started doing Instagram again, because us old guys got to get on Instagram every once in a while. Show the young kids what we're doing. But you can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and, of course, here at YouTube. We're talking quarterback rankings today, 1 through 20. It's going to be exciting. There's some turbulence upon the horizon for Jacob and I. Not so much at the front top of the draft or the front top of our rankings, but as we go down, there's definitely some controversy, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to walk it here through with you guys and just kind of give you our thought process as we go through some of these players. But really quick, before we get started, I got nothing. Jacob, you got anything?
Oh, that's so weird. What do you mean?
I don't know. I thought we had like another thing to talk about. One day when we're like a little bit bigger and we have some stuff to talk about, we're going to be like, and coming at you this Thursday, we're like, but no.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could talk about the 49ers some more if you want.
Yeah, sure, I guess.
No,
I will say this. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I just will say, just so there's no confusion, look, last time we podcasted, it was July, right?
The last time we podcast? Yeah, it was last week. Yes. It was like July 30th, 31st.
Okay, so August is too close to football to be wearing a different team's hat. Okay. So just to get things clear, my affiliations are here. Okay?
Got it. And for those of you who are not watching, you're listening, he's wearing his Niners hat today. Other teams
as opposed to some other team that I can only wear in the off season.
Very good.
August is not the off season.
August is not the off season. One other tidbit before we get started today. If you happen to notice, or if you're ever wondering, captions in our YouTube thumbnails and titles, whenever they are all caps, those are live videos. Those are when you can find us live talking. Feel free to come in, jump in the chat. Let us know your thoughts. Other videos that are just regular, normal punctuation, those are normal videos that we put out throughout the week, but it's a way to kind of find the differences if you ever just want to hear what other people are talking about. We often go through people who are commenting and give us their thoughts. So again, big live caps, thumbnails, and titles. Those are our live videos. Come say hi to us. Leave us a dislike, like, whatever it is. We appreciate it all. We appreciate it so much. And to get us started, Stardew says, if Tua isn't a top 10 or 15, oh, come on. He's a little better than most QBs. Well, with that being said, let's get a drum roll in here because we're talking about our fantasy quarterbacks 1 through 20. I don't know how loud that was for you, Jacob, but it was very quiet for me. Here they are, our quarterback consensus rankings, our top 12. We have Patrick Mahomes at the 1, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson rounds out the top 5, followed by Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Tua. Guess what, Star Drew? He made the list. Deshaun Watson at 11 and Dak Prescott at number 12. Those are
really high for Tua.
Yeah, well, that's why they're called consensus, okay? Averages work out the way they do. We will be posting our own individual rankings on our own Twitter profile, so be sure to look out there. Also, the First Round Fantasy at Twitter will be posting them too, so you'll be able to see them, sure enough. Let's talk about these first 12, and then we'll get into the back half today. There's 5 quarterbacks in particular that we're going to kind of point out today, and those will be the ones that we focus on. Yes, thank you for that. Anyways, so let's go ahead and talk about our quarterback. Sorry. Okay, guys, let's just be honest.
I know what you're talking
about. Constructing a table in the background, and if it's protruding noise, is very loud or inconsistent or happen to be bothersome, let us know in the comments, and maybe we can change the volume. Jacob, I think that's what you were referring to.
Wait, did she go like chop down a tree?
She went full lumberjack on this.
Refine
Not only did she just go full lumberjack, she put on the muffing sound headphones, so she can't even hear what she's doing. It is incredibly loud, and she's not even looking, folks. She's not looking. So we're gonna push through. We're gonna get this going.
You will, Star Drew. You will.
Luckily, we can't hear her. So as I was saying, we're gonna talk about some of these quarterbacks. We have 5 in particular. And let's put it up there again just so you guys can see. Patrick Mahomes, number 1. No disagreements there. Josh Allen, not really a disagreement there. But the first one where we really have a discrepancy on is Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. I currently have him as my quarterback 2 in redraft. Jacob has him all the way down at 5. So the way this is going to work is if one of us is higher on one player than the other, we're going to defend ourselves, followed by maybe getting an attack back, whatever. We'll see how it goes. But for starters, I have Jalen Hurts higher, and this is why. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback 3 last year. And for those of you who don't know and maybe didn't watch a lot of football, just paid attention to your fantasy lineups every week, the Eagles won a lot of games by a lot of points. Specifically, they won 8 games last year by more than 2 scoring touchdowns. Okay, so there were some blowout games for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Don't expect that to be the case in 2023. All right, Hurts will be utilized far more. He's only gotten better. His chemistry with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown is only going to get better. He averaged more than 1.5 points than the leading scorer in fantasy football last year. That was Patrick Mahomes. Yes, that's right, folks. And that was more than Josh Allen, which is Jacob's number 2 and our consensus number 2. But, of course, I have Jalen Hurts at number 2, so I got to peck at Josh Allen there. And he was only 0.4 less in a per-game average than Patrick Mahomes. Think about that. He missed 2 games last year and still was only a 0.4 average off Patrick Mahomes. He only played in 16 games. I think those offense is scary good with the additions of DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. Things are only looking up for him. And I was going to add this one last stat, but I read that somewhere it's not actually that good. It was teams that have made it to the Super Bowl, and like they don't often make it back the second year if they lost, right? But it's part of a narrative. So redemption is coming. Jalen Hurts back to the Super Bowl in 2023 on the back of your fantasy Super Bowl or your fantasy
Absolutely
draft.
not, but okay.
You don't think the Eagles can make it back to the Super Bowl?
No way.
Okay, well.
Absolutely not.
discussion for another day. But let me hear your thoughts, Jacob, about
I
Jalen
have a
Hurts.
major roadblock there, but okay.
Oh, come on. What about your thoughts about Jalen Hurts?
Okay, look, I need to separate my NFL mind from my fantasy mind, okay? But the Eagles definitely would have lost if the chosen one didn't get hurt. But let's see. Jalen Hurts. So I have him at number 5. And you act like that's disrespectful.
It's
Top
not,
5
Jacob.
is like normal, right? That for Jalen Hurts. I just look, he lost Shane Steichen. Do we think is it Sirianni, Nick Sirianni, who's that's making that offense move, or was it Shane Steichen? He's in Indianapolis now. Like that's honestly a concern for me. It really it is. It honestly is. So
That's fair. It's a good point.
And forgive me because I do not know who their offensive coordinator is now. So hypothetically, could be a better situation as well. Like if I can say it can change in a negative way, it can also change in a positive way, right? Look, he's set up for so much success. They had, Devontae Smith's only going to get better. AJ Brown is still a top 5 wide receiver, NFL wide receiver in the league. So it's like the wheels, did they say wheels up? Is that a thing? Okay. Thumbs up for wheels up. Wheels up for Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I just have some other guys a little bit higher. I mean, it's no secret. Look, I have Herbert above him and Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, right? So the thing is, the argument is, okay, a lot of people would arguably put him above Herbert and Burrow. They're more pocket passers. But the thing for me is I think they're just going to light it up. Like Herbert and Burrow could throw 40 touchdowns any given year, right? I mean, I guess Hurts could too. But like I'm just so optimistic about those offenses, especially if they both stay healthy. And then Josh Allen is just a monster. And I don't think it's nice to say you want to stop running, but when you're out on the field and that beast instinct is inside you, are you really going to stop? No. So I have Hurts a little bit lower than you, but no shame.
No shame taken, Jacob. And like you said, you might have guys like Herbert and Burrow ranked a little bit higher than him. But what we must remember, and especially in redraft, is rushing is king, my friend. And when you rush for 760 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2022, now, albeit touchdowns are hard to predict, there's ample opportunity for you to succeed at a high fantasy level. And that's why I have Jalen Hurts at number 2 on my individual rankings, but he falls to number 3 for us. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. What do you think about Jalen Hurts? Too high at 3? Can he get to 2? Thanks for listening. Not bad, Jacob. Not bad. You slippery tiger, you. Let's bring up our rankings again. So we just talked about Jalen Hurts. I have him a little bit higher. Let's talk about someone that Jacob has a little bit higher. You know who it is, Jacob?
Joe Burrow.
It is Joe Burrow. Jacob currently has Joe Burrow as his number 3 fantasy quarterback going into 2023. I have him at number 6. The floor is yours, my friend. Justify your reasoning.
So I know he's a little banged up right now, and we don't have, we don't know how that's going to all play out. But I'm operating as if that never happened and he's fully healthy. Okay, that's how I ranked him. That being said, there's a reason why they call him Joe Burr. All right, he is the most poised quarterback in the league, honestly. And I even say that more than Mahomes. Mahomes looks stressed sometimes, but the thing is, Mahomes is much better than Burrow. Like Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. There's no question about that. But to me, Burrow is just so relaxed back there. He's definitely got the most swag of any quarterback in the league. I mean, there's some challengers out there. Jalen Hurts is definitely one. But I just love his style, his personality, the way he carries himself. That doesn't mean anything really when it comes to his playing abilities. But I mean, it kind of does because it shows his confidence, right? And I think what plays into his confidence is that he has one of his best friends, his longtime teammate, Jamar Chase, playing there with him, one of the arguably, top 3 NFL wide receiver, maybe top 5 NFL wide receiver. But the thing is, their connection is something that even like most of the players that are a top 5 quarterback and a top 5 wide receiver don't have. I mean, you could say Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown kind of have a little bit of that, but it's not like, I don't think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are best friends, not from what I've heard. So just for example, and I don't think Herbert and Keenan Allen are hanging out in Hawaii on the weekends or something, So I just think Burrow and Chase, it goes well. And not to mention T. Higgins, another top 10 to 12 wide receiver in the league. And look, these same arguments can be made about Jalen Hurts, right? And the thing is, and you could argue about Jalen Hurts having the rushing, and Jalen Hurts improved as a passer. But to me, I just think at the end of the day, Joe Burrow is a guy who can go for 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. Like, I'm not saying he's going to do that or that he's going to get both, but I'm saying that's just in his wheelhouse every single season. And I just think even though he's more of a pocket passer guy, he's just so damn good. Their offense is so electric. And like Jamar Chase, man, it's really it. Like if you give Burrow, like, let's say Lamar Jackson's weapons, right? I do not feel as confident. He would be much lower. But it's due to he's amazing as a talent. He's so confident, and he has absolutely incredible weapons, not to mention Tyler Boyd, a very, very underrated wide receiver. And Joe Mixon, your favorite running back of all time.
He does have an outstanding cast of supporting weapons over there in Cincinnati. I don't disagree with that. But much like you said regarding Jalen Hurts, there are just a couple of guys that I like a little bit better than Joe Burrow this offseason. Rushing is king, and especially in redraft, when I'm not concerned about the longevity of a player. If I want to get out there and I want to win right away, I want a guy like Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields who can get out there and be that dual threat quarterback that I need them to be and put absolutely massive loads of fantasy points up for my fantasy team. So he just doesn't have the rushing upside like a lot of the guys that I personally have in front of him, like I just mentioned, Fields and Lamar Jackson. He averaged 21.7 points per game last season. That was 4 less, a whole 4 points, 4 quarters of football less than Jalen Hurts. I just don't see him cracking the top 3, but I definitely think he has top 5 upside. And at that point, we're getting so minimal, right? So we're not trashing Joe Burrow. Jacob obviously has him higher than I do, but on the top side, there's guys I like more. And I think this is like a weak point to make. He is going to miss the majority of the preseason. Jacob and I got a text from one of our buddies in our fantasy group chats talking about how Jamar Chase said that he doesn't want Burrow to come back until he's completely healthy. And if that's week 5, then that's when we should anticipate him coming back. And Jacob, I saw you laugh, and so did I. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, this is just a joke. But then I actually looked it up, and they're actually saying, like, if he comes back by week 1, it could be too early. So obviously we're not speculating anything about that today. We're just observing pure talent from a fantasy standpoint. And there's just a few guys that I like a little bit more than him. So Jacob, I truly respect your decision here. It wasn't like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles making the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say that's disgusting. I hate it. I'm never going to talk to you again. Jacob has no holds barred.
Hold on. That was
the anger face when he wants
that to. Was NFL related, okay? Not fantasy related. Okay.
I'll take it. Let us know your thoughts on Joe Burrow. What do you think? Is he a top 5 fantasy quarterback like Jacob suggests, or just outside like I do? Let us know your thoughts. And as always, we appreciate you. Well, not too bad, Jacob. We've made it pretty far so far without any major concerns or blowups. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow were a few guys that we talked about. Let's throw up the consensus rankings up there again. We've been through Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson is at number 5, Justin Herbert at 6, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields is a guy that I totally neglected. It's a guy that we talked about for literally 30 minutes yesterday and just decided to throw to the wayside. I didn't mention him in the notes, but I feel like this is a guy that we have to talk about. Currently, I have Justin Fields as my top 5 fantasy quarterback in redraft. Jacob has him at number 10. And I'll make this short and sweet. As I mentioned before, and I'll say it 30 more times throughout this podcast, rushing is king for fantasy football. And boy, did Justin Fields do a lot of it in 2022. Led the league in rushing from the quarterback position, ran his way all the way up to a top 7 fantasy football finish, or top 8. Not to mention, you add DJ Moore, you add some pieces to increase that offensive line and that ability to protect him. Sure, we may not know what Justin Fields can do with a clean pocket, but if you look up Justin Fields clean pocket throws on YouTube, accuracy is not the problem here. It's that he was forced to run all those times last year, and he's still going to do a lot of it, which helps his fantasy value a ton. That's why I have him at 5. Sure, am I a little ambitious? I can't say I'm not, but I'd love to hear why you have him so low, Jacob, all the way at number 10. And again, consensus-wise, he is our number 8 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, so look, I love Justin Fields. Don't get me wrong. And I think he's going to have a good NFL career. But we're talking about redraft rankings for this upcoming season, right? And I just don't think that the rushing alone is going to sustain, consistent fantasy success. Like, it definitely can't. Like, it can propel him very high. The thing is, it's kind of unfair because he's going to have 2 45-point games that are going to skyrocket him on the end of the year lists. The stat that I'm concerned about and why I have him so low is how many weeks is he actually going to win you? Is he actually going to win you 8 or more weeks? I don't think so. I think he's going to have those 2 or 3 blow-up games that pump up his stats at the end of the season and maybe put him in the top 5 because we're just calculating fantasy points total, right? But as I've kind of evolved as a fantasy player, I'm realizing that like a stat that's more important than end of year finish is impact on weekly wins or impact on weekly losses. So as a fantasy ranker, I have him at 10. Like, I don't think he's going to consistently get you 25 more than 25, 30-point games. I think he's going to have those 3 or 4 blow-up games that will bulk up his stats.
Well, his rushing upside certainly gave him some viable fantasy production. And yes, the big blow-up games are expected, and there may not be as many of them, but he was a pretty consistent quarterback on average. 20.5 fantasy points per game. That actually made him finish number 6 last year at the fantasy football position. And let's be honest, Geno Smith was also a top 5 fantasy quarterback last year. We have him in our rankings, but nowhere near there. So when you look at his average, it's up there. It's up there. It makes him a top 5 quarterback because remember,
but the blow-up games add to the average. It's not about that. It's about like how it impacts your overall weekly score. Like, yeah. So it's hard to look. There's no stat to go back and look at, right? You would have to monitor it if you had him on your roster and throughout the whole season, right? So I guess you could look at his fantasy points per like each game and see how much he had, so it's kind of a difficult stat to discuss.
He had 7 games last year where he accrued more than 25 fantasy points. He missed 2 games.
But
So
Are those how many fantasy points are like you definitely won that week? Isn't there like 3 or 4 probably?
there's a couple. Yeah, there's 5 of them. I mean, he had a 42-point game, a 40-point game, and then there's some big averages out. There's some lackluster games.
So that's my
25,
only
25,
concern.
25.
Like,
There's
he's
consistency there, too.
capable of having that Lamar Jackson season actually he's not. As a rusher, yes. As a passer, no way. That's the thing. Lamar Jackson MVP year, the year he went crazy and was winning. He literally was, I think he was winning weeks every week in fantasy, right? He threw a ton of touchdowns that year. And I just don't see that for Justin Fields. Like, I know they have DJ Moore, but I got to see it as a passer. He has to improve as a passer for this to happen, and I don't think that's going to happen. Like, he'll improve, but not enough to become that Lamar Jackson year.
Well, I'm not saying he has to have a Lamar Jackson year, because Lamar Jackson was the number 1 overall quarterback for fantasy that year. But I'm saying he could definitely be a top 5 quarterback for you.
Yeah.
I think we both make some good points, Jacob. So give us your thoughts down in the comments. What do you think about Justin Fields going into 2023? Can he crack the top 5, or is he on his way out? Let us know your thoughts, and as always, we appreciate you. Man, there's like full-time construction mode. I got people coming in here and like measuring my desk. Did anyone see that? Did you notice that now, Jacob? Someone literally just put a tape measure across my desk.
Wait, do you have a whole construction crew at your house?
There's 3 people in my house right now doing things. It's getting a little crazy.
Is my inputs low? Like,
actually, you just sounded great, and then when you said something about your volume, you sounded bad.
Really? Like, that's interesting because I moved it closer.
Well, you sound a little bit better right now.
I need to get one of my mic. I don't have a mic right now. I'm using just the computer audio. So that's the problem.
What? When you're as busy as Jacob Bartley giving fantasy information to the world, you're always on the go. But he's lucky to have enough time to stop by here today and talk to us. We've gotten through the first couple of quarterbacks. Let's throw up the rankings there again. We just talked about Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers to a T. Deshaun Watson is going to be the next guy we're talking about today. Jacob, you currently have Deshaun Watson as a top 8 fantasy quarterback. I have him all the way down at 14. So please, sir, educate us as to why you believe Deshaun Watson is going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this season.
Look, so we talked a little bit about Watson, I believe last week, because you had him as one of your guys that you think are going to suck this year. And I disagreed with you. And look,
suck is a big word. I didn't say suck.
We know the situation off the field, okay? What more is there to say about it? It happened. It is what it is at this point, right? Like, so as long as he doesn't have any more legal troubles, which is possible, I'm not worried about that. He was rusty coming back. He came into a situation where I think his mental state was probably a little, shaky, because imagine that whole thing. You feel so scrutinized. You feel so like all these eyeballs are on you in the worst possible way. And then you have a guy like Jacoby Brissett, like a good backup, but there's a reason why he's not a starter in the league, a guaranteed starter in the league. And he was playing well-ish for the Browns and for the NFL, and they were winning, right? And then Watson comes in with all that pressure, has to play. The team is really designed for like Nick Chubb just to go insane, right? And then he really only had Amari Cooper and David Njoku, right? So all those circumstances, look, I think he had a year. He worked last offseason knowing he was going to be suspended for 8 games, right? Like, that's just, that's hard to do. Now he has a full offseason with the team. They added Elijah Moore, which I don't think is a small thing. People need to remember that. They still have Amari Cooper, who was amazing last year, and I think can be amazing again this year. We got DPJ over there. We got David Njoku. Look, Nick Chubb can only help the offense, and it could still be a run-heavy offense. He never had a guy like Nick Chubb when he was in Houston, right? He never did. So that's a concern as far as, like, is it going to be a run-heavy team? But, hey, maybe we see Nick Chubb pick it up in the passing game this year, possibly. But, look, all things considered, like I said last week, prior to the off-field struggles, we were heading to a situation where Mahomes and Watson were the face of the league. Do you remember those AWS, or was it AWS, or was one of those Watson was everywhere in marketing. Like, he was in a bunch of commercials. I was like, that's my boy. And then all this stuff happened, right? Because I have a connection to Deshaun Watson because his rookie year, like, I picked him up in a league, and, like, he was winning me weeks every week. And then he got injured, and I was so devastated. And I was like, I've always been rooting for him ever since then, right? And, like, the year prior to him getting in the legal troubles, he was a top 4 quarterback, and he had an amazing year. Go look back at that year. It was absolutely incredible. And like I said, he was up on Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And, of course, Patrick Mahomes came back and won. So, like, don't forget who this guy is. He could honestly – and the thing is, he's just as good a passer, saying in his prime, prior to the off-field struggles, he's just as good as Burrow and Herbert and Allen. All right, so Allen rushes too, right? But I have Burrow and Herbert at 3 and 4. Watson is just as good as them, but better rusher, better scrambler, can escape the pocket, pick up those 40, 50 yards that stack up over the season and help you sketch out those wins that are 1-point, 2-point fantasy games, right? So there's a world where Watson, in my eyes, finishes 3 or 4, but I'm being conservative and putting him at 8. I truly believe in him as a talent and a football player. I support him.
You know what? It's true. We have to go back in time. Watson was once a fantasy monster, right? Quarterback 4, quarterback 5 overall in the first 3 years of the NFL. And we often forget that, right? Last year, there's a case to be made that he was just rusty. He only averaged 15 fantasy points per game. There were games where he absolutely sank your team. His accuracy was awful at 58%. You made the point that this is a run-first team. Well, I looked it up because I'm really trying to find ways to just ding Watson, right? Well, there were games last year at 4 of like the 7 or 8 he played where he threw the ball over 30 times. So he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. They paid him a lot of money not to just have Chubb rush the ball 25 times a game. So that argument becomes invalid for both of us at that point. One of the things I really don't like about him is the 7th round ADP, mainly because some of these quarterbacks that I have ranked personally ahead of him that we're going to eventually talk about, but I'll mention them here for the video, is Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kirk Cousins. I think they have far more talented options to utilize in that offense, further increasing their fantasy game. And some of them have just been far more consistent than Deshaun Watson. But yes, there is a world where he returns to form. Regardless, let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about Deshaun Watson in the 2023 season? Can he crack the top 10? Let us know. I lost my breath there. If you didn't notice that. But so far, so good. We've had some disagreements. We've had some agreements. But for the most part, I think what people don't understand, and they're going to only really see this when they see our true rankings, we're not that far apart. It really was only these 5 or 6 guys that we're talking about today that really kind of break the mold of our rankings here. And now we're going to kind of be showing you guys 12 through 20 as we talk about our last 3 guys here today. So here are our 12 through 20 rankings, or should I say 13 through 20. With Kirk Cousins at 13, Anthony Richardson, the rookie in Indianapolis, at 14, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, and Derek Carr round out the top 20 for us. We also threw some consideration picks in Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray out there, as well as Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. But one of those guys that we mentioned is right there at the top, Kirk Cousins, quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. He is our consensus, I believe, we just put it up there. He's our consensus 13 quarterback off the board. I have him at number 8. Jacob Bartley is straight up disrespecting him at number 18. And here's why I think Kirk Cousins needs to be
That's
a little
insane.
bit higher.
That's
this is why I need to have Kirk Cousins ranked a little bit higher. He was the QB7 last year. Okay. Now we're going to play some history. The QB11 in 2021, the QB11 in 2022. We have to go all the way back to 2019, Jacob, to when he was the QB18, where you currently have him right now. Going back even a little bit further, QB13 in 2018 and the QB6 in 2017. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterback one finishes to boot. He throws to the best wide receiver in football. You mentioned the connection with Burrow and Chase. Well, how about the connection that can only make you the number 1 overall fantasy football draft pick in Justin Jefferson? There's a connection there that shouldn't be gone unnoticed. They added Jordan Addison in the draft this year. The second-year continuity between him and head coach Kevin O'Connell, which, Jacob, if you didn't watch Netflix's Quarterback, I strongly recommend you do. It was a great watch. I'm not plugging Netflix here or anything. I don't like the price gouging and the password that they've done. So not that, but it was a good watch nonetheless. Him, Patrick Mahomes, and Marcus Mariota were featured this year, and it was really good. And there were really only 4 games last year where he didn't put up his average of 18 points per game, which meant he wasn't tanking your fantasy football team. He was reliable. He was consistent. And that's why I have him ranked as quarterback 8 going into the fantasy football season. Jacob, give me your thoughts.
Look, I can't argue much with that, man. It's like, why? Look, it's just one of those situations where not just me, I mean, a lot of fantasy analysts rank him lower and he always finishes higher. And I think a lot of it has to do with, obviously, now at this point, it's Justin Jefferson carrying him, right? And so, like, it's kind of like the best quarterback in the league is going to support and elevate a mediocre wide receiver, right? But the best wide receiver in the league is going to elevate I would say, an above average quarterback to really good quarterback in fantasy, right? So it's an interesting thing there, but for me, I don't know. It's just a thing where I rank as if, like, okay, who would I draft if I'm on the clock and I'm taking a quarterback? I would take Mahomes first. I would take Allen second, et cetera, right? And like I like Geno Smith's situation right now. He's got a lot of these are guys right above him in my rankings. Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Matthew Stafford, right? Like, and I'm operating as if Matthew Stafford is fully healthy and Cooper Kupp is fully healthy, right? So, like, I know I was low on Daniel Jones last week, but like he does have that rushing ability, which kind of gives him a nice little floor. So, look, Cousins is probably going to finish in the top 10 again, but am I drafting him above any of those guys that I have between, 11 and 17? Probably not. It's just a personal preference thing.
Well, personal preference can lead to absolute disgust, Jacob. But like we have in the chat, some people are saying Kirk Cousins is a little too high on my side. So maybe I'll have to readjust. And I'm just kidding because I'm not readjusting nothing. Let us know your thoughts down below about Kirk Cousins. What do you think? I have him as a top 10 quarterback. Do you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thanks for listening. And that by far, when I saw that, and I'm not going to tell the story that we had off screen or anything, but I'm just like, man, I was like, dude, this is going to be one to talk about for sure. Let's bring up 12 through 20 again. We only have 2 more guys that we're going to be talking about today. We're flying through today's show. We just talked about Kirk Cousins. Coincidentally, Anthony Richardson, rookie quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, we have him ranked at 14 right behind him in our consensus rankings, but that's where we really differ. Jacob Bartley has him as the QB 11 going into 2023. I have him at the QB 18. But Jacob, the floor is all yours. Why should people draft Anthony Richardson as a QB1 this year?
Okay, can we just clip my stuff from last week and just insert it here? Because I feel like every week I'm giving this same talk about Anthony Richardson, and it's just like, I'll keep it short and sweet this time around. Like, we know what the rushing ability can do for these quarterbacks. He's going to propel there. I talked about Shane Steichen. He was Jalen Hurts' offensive coordinator last year. He's now the head coach in Indianapolis, and he believes in Anthony Richardson. He wanted to get him. That's his guy. Anthony Richardson has this, chosen one mentality in him, meaning that he wants to be one of the greats. His heroes are Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Like, he wants to be one of the greats. And like, I don't sense that in a lot of like every quarterback, right? Like, but I do sense like he comes out and says it. I love that confidence. And you and I talk about it a lot. Like, we kind of been following him since, like, just keeping an eye on him since his college career, because we had him in a Devy league. So I just really believe in the talent. If that situation leads to like Jonathan Taylor not playing, I think it's possible that he has an even greater rushing season. So I said it last week. I have him as a bottom of the top 12. So like a QB1, but low end QB1. But he has the ceiling to finish as a top 5 guy if that rushing really hits.
I don't know where to start. I just don't know where to start. The talent is undeniable, and the narratives there are perfect. Like, who could also be a rushing quarterback? I even tried to go back and look at Jalen Hurts' rookie year. He didn't really get starting action until like the last 4 weeks of the season. And actually, dude, have you looked at Jalen Hurts' last 4 weeks of his rookie season? He went freaking bananas. He 20, 37, 20, and 17. So not bananas, but he had some freaking
showed a lot of promise. Yeah.
Showed a lot of promise. The thing is, though, is that Anthony Richardson is probably going to start week 1. And I'm just saying, if you're drafting him at that price tag, like, it's going to be rough sledding to start the fantasy season. I think right now, according to NFC, he's technically a sleeper QB at this point. So, Jacob, you have him much higher than the consensus of just like general rankings that I've seen. But still, let me read you a stat. This is a Sports Illustrated article. I'll list it down in the comments below. 66 quarterbacks have been selected in the first round of the NFL draft. When you compare that to fantasy, only 3 of them, Jacob, which is 4.5%, have finished with more than 300 fantasy points. Now, why does that matter? Well, because according to where you have him at 11, now obviously this actually benefits you, Richardson would have to reach the QB 9 this year to achieve 300 fantasy points. So appropriately, you have him ranked just outside QB 11. All right. But we go further into this, and it says that only 6 quarterbacks, including those 3, which means 9% of the 66 quarterbacks selected in the first round, have scored over 250 fantasy points. He'd have to be QB 15 to reach that mark, which is where I start to get a little fancy and disagree with you on that. I just think if history is in his favor, it's not going to go well for Anthony Richardson in year 1. Not to mention, clip out everything that I've said about Anthony Richardson over the last 6 weeks and input it here. He's only thrown 400 pass attempts at a 53% clip in college. Young and Stroud, his rookie comparisons, have thrown over 700 passes in college. Deshaun Watson was the only rookie to put up 24 points per game in his rookie season, and he only played 7 games because he tore the ACL. Yes, I get it. Shane Steichen, blah, blah, blah. I still think it's a long, grueling season in the NFL. Don't get me wrong, Jacob. Yes, you have him ranked pretty high. But in terms of like consensus and NFC draft rankings, like he's like the 15th quarterback off the board right now. he is definitely the dart throw that you need to take at quarterback to take your team to the next level. But that's only because I think he can help you in the back half of the season. If you start him and roll him out there week 1 as your quarterback 1, and that's what I think Jacob's kind of referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's not going to do that for you. At least I don't believe so. And I just like the guys that are more ahead of him, especially at that point where you want consistency on your fantasy football team. I mentioned them earlier, guys like Dak, Tua, and Burt. They're easy. You know what you're going to get, and that's what I'd prefer. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Anthony Richardson, quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And not only that, you said that the Jonathan Taylor drama, sure, yes, it could lead him to, but what if it doesn't? What if Jonathan Taylor leaves and that's the scheme now? How many plays is Anthony Richardson going to rush a game? 20? Like, teams are going to zone in on him, and I just don't like it. I will say this. In all the research that I did, he walks into one of the best situations for a rookie in the NFL. The offensive line was great last year to some extent. The defense was great. He's got a plethora of tall weapons around him: Michael Pittman, Alex Pierce, Jelani Woods. So the components are there. And if Jonathan Taylor plays, obviously that's good too. But there's so much going against him in his rookie season, and that's why I have him ranked at quarterback 18. And Jacob, you have him at number 11. Any closing thoughts?
I don't want to see him on any of your teams this year.
Well, we already have 6 teams that have drafted, and he's on none of them. And if you don't remember, I had a couple of 1-2 picks this year, and I've traded out of them all. So I'm sticking to my guns. But what did I say, Jacob? He's a dart throw worth having. I did say that. You can't rule me out. Let us know your thoughts on Anthony Richardson. Is he a top 12 quarterback for fantasy? What do you think? And as always, we appreciate you so much. We have one more quarterback to talk about, Jacob. Let's get back to our consensus rankings, 12 through 20. Geno Smith comes in at 15, Daniel Jones 16, Jared Goff at number 17, Russell Wilson at 18, Jordan Love at 19, Derek Carr at 20. Derek Carr rounds out the top 20, and that's where we're going to end our conversations today. I have Derek Carr currently ranked as the quarterback 17, and the only reason why we're having a conversation about him today is because when I was texting you about our rankings last night, you made a slight little nod to Derek Carr. You said, yeah, just push him back and put him in. And I said, oh, really, Jacob? Like, that's the guy you're choosing to back up and move out? So that's why we're talking about him right now. Derek Carr. Wait, you can defend yourself because it could have been.
No, because the thing is, it's not like I singled out Derek Carr. He was 19 on my, so I forgot about 2 guys. So I had to bump 19 and 20. I'm not going to bump a guy above Derek Carr. That would make no sense.
Still very true, but it's still considerable ranking considering I have him as the QB 17. So which meant he was already your quarterback 20. That's big enough to justify it.
So he is my honorable mention. He's at 21, Purdy at 22.
Perfect. So 4 spots, which is enough to mention. Revenge Tour 2023. Enough said. It's time for Derek Carr to let loose in the NFL, and he's going to do it with guys like Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, if he's healthy, Alvin Kamara, after he serves his 3-game suspension. He's got the easiest schedule in the NFL in terms of opposing NFL corners, which means he's absolutely going to carve up defenses. And again, just a model of consistency. I have him at the quarterback 17. That's where he finished last year. But before that, QB 13, QB 13, QB 17, 18, 20. He's always fluttered in that range. And after those top 8 guys with upside, you're really looking for guys that just don't sink your ship. He's a viable streaming quarterback. And I think if you invest in him late, that means that your pieces around him are only better, and you've only secured depth at other positions. And that's a guy that, consistency wins out over the course of a season, especially when we're talking about guys like Justin Fields, who, what if he gives you 6 duds? But Derek Carr never fell below 16 points per game. That is a reasonable solution for Derek Carr in 2023. He reunites with QB Dennis Allen, where in 2014, he was the QB 20. So I have him ranked a little bit higher than most. Jacob, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Derek Carr a lot. It's just, and I've always supported him. Like I always thought he was underrated in Oakland and Las Vegas, but I just don't see a situation where, like, I think he can have a good year, but not a good NFL year and not a good fantasy year. A lot of people talk about that division and like, oh, they all suck, right? But no, I think the Saints. I mean, the Panthers might be good, but they have a rookie quarterback, so we'll see how that plays out. But my money's on the Saints to win that division. Like, I don't think it's any question about it. Like, they throw the Saints in the same category with, like, with the rest of the division, and I just don't think that's the case. Like, they got a really good like, they have Chris Olave, and hopefully Michael Thomas can do something. What's the rookie guy that you and I like, JT Perry or something? A.T. Perry, yeah. A.T. Perry, yeah. So, yeah, he's going to get a Star Wars nickname, right? Because he's so tall and big, like the AT-AT. So, it's going to be awesome. So, and look, if Kamara is healthy, or not healthy, sorry, if Kamara doesn't get suspended, or even if he does get suspended and he comes back.
He's suspended, Jacob. I'll stop you there. 3 games. He got 3 games.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, apparently I don't pay attention to anything going on in the NFL. So yeah, Kamara's only going to help. So I think he's going to have a decent year, but I just can't get him in that top 20.
That's fair. It's concise, and it's the last quarterback we're talking about today. So let us know your thoughts about Derek Carr, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Does he crack your top 20? Let us know down in the comments, and as always, we appreciate you. And Jacob, let's sum it up today. QBs 1 through 12. There they are. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers to a T. Round out the top 10, followed by Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. Then we have quarterbacks 12 through 20. Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith round out the top 15. Daniel Jones, Goff, Wilson, Love, Derek Carr round out the top 20. And a few honorable mentions: Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy, and Kyler Murray. We did a great job today, Jacob, breaking down our quarterbacks 1 through 20. Be sure to follow us on our Twitters, as we will be revealing our personal rankings as well, because obviously that's why we had discussions today, because there are some differences. So in case you want our personal opinions, follow us on Twitter. Look out for Instagram posts, Facebook posts. We'll be sure to put them there shortly. But how do you feel, Jacob? You like our consensus rankings?
Yes and no. I don't like where you have some players, but hey, that's the whole point, right? We make these, we have different opinions, we disagree. That's okay.
I'm not going to say the name of the show, but honestly, I almost wanted to stop watching them the other day because, and I'm sure people may have thought that about us before, but I was listening to their show, and one of the guys, he's like, wait a second, you have Anthony Richard, or it wasn't Anthony Richard, it was someone else. I won't say the name. He's like, wait, you have him at 4? I have him at 34th. And like at that point, it's like, whoa, the discrepancy there is so big. And to be honest, I was way off on that guy too. Like, I'm like, wait, what? Like 4th? But I can't, man. HIPAA laws, whatever. Don't want to mention it. But regardless, we had some pretty good discussions here today. We got our quarterbacks 1 through 20 out there for the world to see. I feel pretty confident about it. Jacob, you ready for some quick bits of news and notes? We only got 2 today.
Okay, go ahead. And I don't have a hot take today, so that's on you.
Well, that's a hot take, Jacob, because now I got to think about it while running. Okay, whatever. Anyways, Alvin Kamara suspended the first 3 games of the NFL season.
Breaking news to me.
Breaking news to Jacob. What does this mean for guys like Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller? Do they fly up your draft boards? A little bit of context here. I was in the midst of trade talks yesterday when this news broke surrounding rookie running back for the New Orleans Saints, Kendre Miller. And when that news broke, I hesitated for a little bit because I think a lot of people were thinking worst case scenario, this guy's going to miss 6 games, 8 games, 3 games. It doesn't sound that bad. Like, he's still training with the team. He's going to be out there. It doesn't feel like the world is over for me, and I feel like it gives him enough time to come back and be an instant fantasy relevant player for your team. But still, who are you now leaning on, Jacob? Jamal Williams or Kendrick Miller. They're both guys that are currently going way off in the 10th round or later, but obviously their draft stock's going to pick up just a little bit. So who are you taking?
I mean, it's so like I honestly don't really care because like Kamara's going to come back and he's going to get the most work. Like it's only 3 games. Yes, maybe they can help you in those 3 weeks, but are you really going to start one of those guys week 1? No way. What's going to happen is one of them are going to go off week 1. We don't know which one. Then everyone's going to either pick them up or overvalue them. They're going to start them weeks 2 and 3. Maybe they have good games, but then Kamara comes back and it's useless. So it's so unknown, but like for redraft, just give me Jamal Williams. We know what he can do.
And for Gabriel personally, who has to force out Kendrick Miller there week 1, give me Kendrick Miller because he has pass catching chops that are underutilized. So that's a biased take.
But that's in a dynasty league, right?
Yeah, it's in the dynasty league. I think you're right, though. 3 games is enough to invest in one of these
chunk
guys.
Of the season, actually.
Big chunk of the season. And it's the first 3 weeks of the season. Like, no one wants to start their NFL season 0-3. But I think you're right, Jacob. Like, you're also not going to go out there and grab these guys and probably put them in your lineup week 1, risking the chance. Because
they're
we're
great
looking at this from a redraft perspective,
sure.
right? Yes, you're going to be drafting them as dart throws. Obviously, they're going to be creeping up a little bit higher. But you got to wait a week to then see who's the one that pops, and then you play him in week 2, and maybe it's another guy, and then you play him in week 3, and one of them goes off, and next thing you know, Alvin Kamara is back. So it may be a situation that we're all really blowing up right now, but none the least, who would you rather have, Jamal Williams or Kendrick Miller in that New Orleans backfield? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, we appreciate you. Thanks for listening. And honestly, Jacob, I wanted to talk about more news, but there really just isn't anything I'm seeing. So guess what? I think we're going to finish like 4 minutes earlier today, unless you have something.
I'm good, man.
Dude, well, man, we did it. Again, August 5th, 2023, quarterback rankings were out today. You can find us anywhere in the social media landscape. That's right, even now, Instagram included. Twitter, Facebook, and here, YouTube, where you're listening to us today, or anywhere else you listen to your podcast, Spotify or Apple Premium, most notably. It's been fun today. If you liked anything you saw or heard, please be sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out so much. We appreciate you for doing so. And also, we give you a big air high five, because although we can't be together in person, we are together through this great big thing called the internet that allows us to do what we do. And Jacob laid the news on me today that I got to get the hot take out today. So since we're talking quarterbacks, let's throw out a hot take, Jacob. I got to cue us out too. When are you going to have command controls back? I'm really not.
I have them.
Oh, my gosh. Well, then cue up our outro. Let me get this hot take in. Are you ready?
Okay. Oh, yeah. I got you.
Goodness gracious, Jacob. Making me think you're not.
I have controls again. I have controls.
These are things that we have to establish.
I responded in the chat.
P.S. Shout out to the long-running Pick 6 League. We got our draft tonight. We're all going to meet up.
Hey, we got a draft tonight.
Someone's got the 101. We all know what's going on.
Wonder who you're going to take.
It's going to be fun. I may have Gibbs. I may take Gibbs. I don't know. Nah. Anyways, hot take. Quarterback edition. Anthony Richardson, rookie quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Say goodbye to him on your fantasy teams, because he is not going to be a fantasy quarterback inside the top 20. That's right. You heard it here first. Have a good weekend. Peace. Cue us out, Jacob.